Hola amigos, ¿qué tal? Stuart here from Spain Speaks with an update video. Today we'll have a bit of a chat about what's going on here in Spain. We'll go into the press and check out some of the main stories that are dominating headlines today around the country. And then at the end of the video, we'll go into the comment section and take a look at a few of your comments. Now, there's plenty of interesting news around today here in Spain. There's talk about new restrictions as far as COVID-19 is concerned, especially when it comes to bars and restaurants and the hours that you can dine out. Another story that has caught my attention is about Spain's opposition leader, Pablo Casado, and he finds himself in a bit of an embarrassing situation, but more about that in just a moment. And news related to the famous COVID certificate or COVID passport here in Spain also making headlines, and whether or not it will be implemented in Spain's autonomous communities. Now let's get into the news, and we'll go to the state broadcaster first off, check out what is happening there. And the state broadcaster is leading with this headline today: estimular en vez de obligar a los no vacunados, los expertos apuestan por la pedagogía frente a la imposición. And the translation to that headline would be: encourage instead of forcing the unvaccinated, experts bet on pedagogy over imposition. And just below that, we can read that they, the unvaccinated, barely represent 9% of the population over 12 years of age, but occupy 60% of intensive care beds. And just below that, health specialists are quoted as saying that denying public health care to those who do not want to vaccinate is falling into a complicated spiral. And of course, all of this talk about mandatory vaccination here in Spain has come about because of what is happening in Germany and Austria at the moment. Those two countries have decided to take a hard line against people that don't want to be vaccinated. Austria saying that it is going to become compulsory, and Germany talking about doing the same thing. But here in Spain, as we saw, that is not the case. Here the idea is going to be to encourage people to get vaccinated, not force them to do it, because if you do force it, you can fall into a complicated spiral, as we saw those experts say. But then again, the situation here in Spain is completely different when compared to Austria and Germany, because as we also saw, only 9% of the eligible population here is not vaccinated, where in countries like Germany and Austria, it's around 30%. And that is why German and Austrian authorities have decided to crack down. And as we can see from another article here today, Alemania endurece el discurso ante la cuarta ola. Estamos ante una situación altamente dramática. So Germany hardens the speech before the fourth wave. We are facing a highly dramatic situation. And as we can read on here, the acting German health minister, Jens Spahn, on Monday toughened his speech against the coronavirus and has alerted people who have not yet been vaccinated against COVID. At the end of the winter, they will be vaccinated, healed or dead, he stated bluntly. So harsh words coming out of Germany, and as we saw quoted there, they're facing a dramatic health situation. And the German health minister, not mincing his words, people will either be vaccinated, healed or dead by the end of the winter. So a tough situation in Germany at the moment, but thankfully here in Spain we have not reached that level yet, and according to the Prime Minister's words the other day, it's not going to happen here. Now, as we all know, various autonomous communities here in Spain are pushing for COVID passports to allow people to enter public spaces like bars and restaurants, for example. I think 10 of the 17 autonomous communities here have been pushing for this type of certificate, but of course it all depends on the individual justice systems in the autonomous communities. Some have given the okay to implement COVID passports, but some haven't, and the most recent case of this happened in the Basque Country. And as we can read here, La Justicia del País Vasco rechaza el uso del pasaporte COVID como pedía el gobierno. Basque Country Justice rejects the use of the COVID passport as requested by the government. So the justice system in the Basque Country rejecting government calls to implement COVID certificates there in bars and restaurants. And this has opened up the old can of worms about whether Spain should have a common criteria for the whole country when it comes to the health crisis, or 17 different sets of rules and regulations. And as we can see in this headline from El Mundo, legal chaos of COVID passports in the absence of common guidelines. And this was the exact same debate that we had in Spain last year. According to which autonomous community you are in, there are different rules and regulations. For example, in the Basque Country, as we just saw, COVID certificates are not compulsory, but perhaps in Cantabria, which is a neighbouring autonomous community, they are. So I would agree with El Mundo there when they talk about common guidelines to fight the health crisis here. Now, another story that has caught my attention today, and I mentioned it briefly at the beginning of the video, and it involves the opposition leader here in Spain, Pablo Casado, and he's in a bit of an embarrassing situation at the moment because of a church service that he attended in Granada at the weekend. And as we can see from this headline, a large Francoist flag and a crown on the altar, the mass that Pablo Casado attended by mistake, in inverted commas. El Diario.es has published this Monday the photographs of the interior of the Granada Cathedral where the Mass in honor of Francisco Franco took place. In them, you can see a large Francoist flag and the crown of the Francisco Franco Foundation on the altar. And if we read on, the controversy continues over the presence of Pablo Casado at a mass on November the 20th in memory of the dictator Francisco Franco in Granada. On Saturday, Casado was in Granada and entered the cathedral. However, PP sources assure the SER that Casado did not know who the mass was for. He went to the mass with his family when the service had already begun. They were in church for a while and then they left, all without knowing of any other circumstance, these popular sources explained to SER. So, there we go, a bit of a strange story, and as I said, a little bit embarrassing for the opposition leader, Pablo Casado. He's in Granada at the weekend with his family, and according to him, because he wouldn't be able to go to church on Sunday, he decided to attend Mass on Saturday evening. But funnily enough, the place that he decided to attend Mass was also holding a special ceremony for the ex-dictator Francisco Franco, because the 20th of November is the anniversary of his death. So the question is, was this a coincidence, or was Pablo Casado paying his respects to the ex-dictator? That's what people are trying to work out. And the final thing that caught my attention in the press today here in Spain in various news outlets, a story about Boris Johnson and the fact that he absolutely lost it yesterday while he was giving a speech. As we can see from this headline, Johnson pierde los papeles y acaba hablando de Peppa Pig en un discurso anti-empresarios. And that's an interesting expression if you're learning Spanish. Perder los papeles, to absolutely lose it. And that's exactly what happened to Johnson yesterday as he got lost for words during that speech. And why he ended up talking about Peppa Pig, who knows? Now let's have a look at some of the comments left on yesterday's video. One here from Steve: the English use flat and always have. Apartment is an American word. Some people don't like to use the word flat due to the connotation it is cheaper, as in a council flat. Even Delboy called his pad the Flat. That too was a council place. Yes, Steve, thanks for the comment and thanks for helping us out on the debate about which word to use when we talk about piso here in Spain, flat or apartment. I said yesterday that I've always used the word flat because that's the most common word in Australia, or at least it was when I was growing up, but nowadays people tend to use the word apartment a lot more, and I don't know whether it's because it's an Americanism that is creeping into general English use. Lots of other people also left comments about this, and it seems fairly clear from what I read that flat is a British word and apartment is an American word. And a few other people did point out something similar to what you said there, Steve, that flat gives you the idea that it's a cheaper type of accommodation like a council flat. But at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter if you use the word flat or apartment. We all know the type of accommodation we're talking about. One here from Shakil: hello Stu, I just wanted to say thank you so much for your channel and videos. We are from Canada and have a home in the town of Salobreña and cannot wait to get back. Your updates have given much needed reassurance to come back and reappreciate the reason why we chose Spain for our second home. Take care. Yes, Shakil, thanks for the comment. Glad you like the videos, and hopefully you will be able to get to Salobreña sometime in the near future. A very nice part of Spain down there in Granada, and I'm sure that you can't wait to get back and enjoy it. And it's been a real eye-opener for me over the last year or so to see just how many Canadians have property here in Spain. In fact, I've lost count of the amount of people that I read in the comment section from Canada saying that they're looking forward to getting back here and enjoying their properties. So good luck, and as I said before, let's hope that it's soon. One here from MH Kruger: in the US, as many know, we do not have socialized medicine, except for Medicaid for the very poor and disabled, and Medicare for senior citizens. Our healthcare is privatized and expensive, anywhere from $490 to $700 a month for a single person, depending on your deductible and where you live. So yeah, it's expensive, and many simply don't ever go to the doctor or get needed care because of the deductibles and what may or may not be covered. My husband and I regularly have to wait for at least a month, usually 2 to 3 months, to see doctors or get any kind of healthcare appointments. So would I rather have healthcare for all and maybe a 2-week, 1-month wait? Absolutely. Yeah, mate, thanks for the comment and thanks for putting into perspective the difference between healthcare systems here in Europe and in the United States. And you're right, I think we are lucky here in Spain to have the health system that we have. And when it comes to private healthcare here in Spain, which is also an option for a lot of people and a way to get faster medical service, I don't think you pay anywhere near the figures that you quoted in your comment. One here from Grant. Greetings from Polo de Siero, Asturias. To go to the doctor here, the longest it takes is 2 days to see the GP, and you can do most prescription on the phone, but to see a specialist it could take up to a year. Like your show. Yeah, Grant, thanks for the comment and glad you like the show. And I've got to ask the question, what brought you to a small town in the north of Spain? And I must say, it looks like a lovely place. And when it comes to seeing a GP in the public healthcare system, I think that's the record so far, 2 days. I said it's around 10 days here in Madrid. Somebody yesterday in Barcelona said around 30 days. So 2 days is pretty good. And when it comes to seeing a specialist, around a year, as you say there, I think that's fairly common no matter where you are here in Spain at the moment. One here from David. Spain is doing better with vaccination than European countries. However, due to plenty of demonstrations going on in major cities in Europe against restriction and vaccination, I hope Spain won't follow that path to lockdown again. Evidently, a few countries carrying out some restrictions which ignited anger amongst the population. Yeah, David, thanks for the comment, and you're right, some people in other European countries, for example the ones that I mentioned earlier today, Germany and Austria, are not happy about restrictions and mandatory vaccinations. Demonstrations again happening in some cities around the continent, but let's be honest, that's nothing new, because people have been demonstrating for various reasons since this pandemic began. And I, like you, hope that Spain doesn't go down the path of lockdown again. Politicians are telling us that that is not going to be the case, but as we have seen from this pandemic from the beginning, you just never know. And finally, one here from Linda. Hi Stu, did they ever catch the Dutch tourists? Yeah, Linda, thanks for the comment, and I think the answer to your question is no. They have not caught these Dutch health fugitives, a group of people that decided to flee a town in Extremadura after a couple of them tested positive for COVID-19 and they had to go into obligatory quarantine. But instead of doing that, they decided to pack their bags and hit the road and are most likely back in their hometowns. So I don't think we'll ever get to the bottom of this case, unfortunately. On that note, I'll wrap the video up. Questions and comments, please leave them in the section below. Debate the video out as you normally do. Give it a thumbs up if you liked it, thumbs down if you didn't. I'll see you in the next one. Hasta luego.